Shalom, this is Rob Vanoff with Torah Resource Institute. I'm sharing this week's Torah portion, Parashat. It's actually a double portion, Behar and Behuqotai. It's the end of the book of Leviticus, or Vayikra. And this week we're looking at another image here of what is called 11Q. This is from Cave 11, 11Q1. And I can show you a bigger picture here, pardon me, of the manuscript that will, let's see here. You can see how this unfolds, unrolls rather. Really well preserved in the sections that we have here. Sadly, the top half or so of the script of the scroll is missing, so we have the bottom parts of these phrases here, of these passages. And so what we're going to look at is these pardon me. There we go. We're going to look at the middle section, which I have here in the color, but I also have an image of it in black and white. And this black and white section here is helpful because it's a little bit easier for us to see. And the actual verse that we'll look at here is this passage from Leviticus 26, beginning with verse 19. So verses 19 and 20. And where we'll see that begin is right here. I'll zoom in. We're going to start here, and we're going to read that way. And as we go, we're going to learn that as a neat feature of this particular manuscript is that we have all the Hebrew letters represented. That's a neat thing also about having an intact, extended scroll rather than, in past weeks we've just seen little fragments and we only get little snippets of the alphabet. But here in today's section, which is this section right here that we'll be looking at, is an attestation of all the letters of the alphabet. So I'm going to move that out of the way there, and we'll go back. And here we go. The verse again, as I said, is I have Leviticus 26:19. If you want to grab your Bible and you can follow along, because I'm not going to have the English there all the time because it's just on the top of that page. But we're going to go over the Hebrew, and I'm going to trace letter by letter here. I think I'm going to go with the black ink. And like we've done before, I'm going to do the Paleo Hebrew, and we're going to talk about each letter. And I'll just do these two verses, 19 and 20. And then we're going to go through and look at all the letters of the alphabet, how this particular scribe wrote each of the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So like I said, we're going to start right here and go to the left. Of course, in this first letter is a Vav. And it appears that they made it in this type of form. I'll do that again. It's like a little bit of a hook, and then a vertical line, and then a sheen. Looks kind of like a W for us. If you see this little edge here, it's almost like they made two wedge shapes, like a V and then another V. I think out of laziness, sometimes I just do a W, but I think technically he lifts the pen. I think it's two motions like that. So in any event, like that, that's a sheen. So we have a Vav and then a sheen I'll write the Aramaic script above that. Then we have a bet, a resh. Notice the difference between a bet and a resh. They both start with a loop and have a vertical line, but the bet is differentiated by that lower cross line. Then we have a tav. Now normally that would go all the way through like that, but I think he's, imagine that this is your job. You're sitting here writing this out. You're going to get a little bit sloppy at times. So it's vav, shin, bet, resh, and tav. Vav, shin, bet, resh, tav, and yod. And a yod. And that tells us here that it is, this is this beginning, and I will break. So again, if you remember, our passage here is in this section of curses if Israel fails to abide by the terms of the covenant. And that's super important because things don't go well. The situation in the world is not good, right? Man has fallen into sin, and God is lifting Israel out of sin. But if they don't follow His ways, they're gonna be in a bad way. So this is at the beginning of verse 19, Leviticus 26:19. Veshavarti. And the first thing it says, Veshavarti et. So here's our aleph, tav, and that's our direct object marker. Veshavarti et. And notice here, like we've seen before, each of these words is separated by a dot. That's one of the scribal conventions being used here. Now, a neat thing here is we have a gimel. And look at this just little gimel. It looks like it's almost like a little dalet. But it's a g. Then we have another aleph. Then we have a vav. And this is a nun. Now remember, no Sophite letters in ancient Hebrew writing, so no final forms, that is, in Paleo Hebrew. So like when you learn Hebrew today, you learn a nun Sophite, right? A final nun, a final mem, that sort of thing. We don't have that here. And what this word is, maybe I should shift to what would green look good? Gimel, aleph, vav, and then nun Sophite. I don't know if that's better, easier for you to see or not with the contrast. It's gimel, aleph, vav, nun. And this word is geon, and it's in what we call construct with the word after it, this word here. And so we'll write that, and then we'll look at the meaning. We have a dot for a word divider, an ayin. So an ayin is just like a little, sometimes I write like more of a little loop, but you can kind of see it goes like that. Ayin. Now here's another neat rare letter, is a zayin. It looks like a little sled in front of a sled or something. It goes like this. You have these two little things. They look kind of like skis or something going in parallel, and then there's a line connecting them. And then we have a kaf, and then a mem. And again, no mem Sophite. So this is ayin, zayin, kaf, and then what we would write with a mem Sophite. And the Hebrew, the Masoretic vocalization is u. We put a u vowel there. Uzechem. And this phrase is gaon uzechem. And what that means is the pride of your strength. The gaon is pride. That's like loftiness. And then uz is strength. Chem is of y'all. So it's pride of your power or your might or strength. How did this translation take it? Oh, your pride of power. That's this phrase. I will break your pride of power. Gaon. Right? It's pride that is the hardened heart against the words of Adonai. So again, one of the neat features here we learn from the Hebrew writing is that we have some letters that we don't often see. We see a gimel and a zayin. A lot of the other letters are more frequent, but the gimel and the zayin here are nice to pause and point out. So veshavarti et geon uzechem. Shavarti, that's our first word, is and I will break. Again, we're talking about what's going to happen if they do not listen to his commandments. And we're going to do a little more here before we look at all the alphabet. So another word divider here. And then we have another vav. Ve, anun. And those two little pluses, the crosses, those are tavs. And then a yod. So ve, and then a double tav like that. And the Masoretic tradition is going to say ve na tati. And I will give, or I will set. I will set, and then a dot, shin, mem, yod, kaf, and a mem. And this, it says, shin, I'm going to offset it for a reason here. Shmechem, like this. And the vocalization would be like this, shmechem. And this is your heavens. So shemeh, it's a contraction of shemayim, of yours. And then we have the chem is of yah, of y'all, ending. And when we do that, we take off that final mem and we smash those words together. That's something you'll learn in Hebrew. Shmechem. Now, interesting here is that the Masoretic text adds another et. But we do not have the et in this manuscript here. And I will set your heavens, and then a dot. We have another kaf. And there's the letter here. It's a bet. It's hard to see because it's been damaged a little bit, but we know it's there. It's a bet like that, and then a resh. Then another zayin. See the two little skis, I don't know what you call them, with a little vertical or angled dash there, and then a lamed. So it's ke, bet, resh, zayin, lamed, like that. And this is ka barzel. Ka. And if you have your Bible open, you'll see what this is. Barzel is the word for iron. So Barzel equals iron. So I will make your heavens ka. And this ka here, oops, this ka means like as or something. So I will make your sky like iron. So the iron there, that's your Barzel. And your sky is your heavens. So maybe you've got a translation that says your heavens. I will set your heavens as iron. And that verb, venatati, extends, there's actually a list here, ve and ve'et. So here they have the et, which is interesting. Did the scribe skip it? I think back in this location, there was supposed to be an et, and he skipped it because he's putting one here, which is appropriate. He's continuing the list. So, oops, I'm going to go back to my dark ink there. This is ve'et, and that is in agreement with the Masoretic text. And then we have Aleph, Resh, and then a tzadi, which is nice because we don't always see tzadis. It's a more rare letter. And then a kaf. So this is Aleph, Resh, tzadi, kaf. And just like we saw last week, we expect another letter. We expect a letter mem. Artzachem, which means your land. We expect a mem here. Well, guess what? If we scroll back to the beginning of the next line, we see a little single letter all by itself. See this little guy here? That's our little mem, separated from the word that it belongs to, Artzachem. So this, and we saw this last week, this shows that the scribe is privileging the right and left justification. That is to have an elegant looking image with this kind of that straight line on both the right and the left. That priority is above the priority of keeping all the words or all the letters of a word together. And we do that in English. We'll finish and we'll put a hyphen, right? We'll split a word and we'll put a hyphen. And that's what's happening here too. And then the last word of verse 19 is kanechusha, which means I will make your earth, and your earth kanechusha. So here's this mem here is the end of earth, your eretz, and then we have kaf, nun, a chet, and then a hey. Now, another point, and we already saw one example in this verse where we would normally expect the et. We have a missing letter here because that's not a word. What we have right there is ka, which means like, and then we just have nun, chet, hey. Well, all manuscripts, complete manuscripts, have a shin here. So there's a letter missing. It should say this. Oops, I'll make that's a hey. Like that. Ka nechusha. And so what we learn here, ka nechusha, means as bronze. I will make your earth as bronze. But our manuscript that we're looking at misses the letter. And there should be, if we could zoom in, we would draw a little shin to go right in the middle there. Kenechusha. So this is an example of a manuscript that was not corrected. So normally you would finish a manuscript and then the master scribe would come, or let's say, the head of the scribal school or someone who was higher up would come and check the work. And in checking the work would maybe write a little letter above or below, or try to scratch it out and rewrite it, that sort of thing. So there's the first bit of what I want to talk about, because we could spend all day just doing that, and it's fun for me, but I know these videos can get long. So because I love to rabbit trail, what I want to do is go and look at the different letters of the alphabet that are that occur here, and see if we can find them. So the first one, here's an aleph. Here's an aleph. Maybe you can find an aleph. Here's an aleph. Once you learn to see it, here's an aleph. Here's an aleph. Like, I don't even have to be really reading the Hebrew. I just recognize the aleph and what it is. It kind of looks like an F here. Now remember, this is an evolved, this is a special script, because, you know, an aleph can look like that. An aleph, you know, we've seen an aleph in the Aramaic script look like something like that. So every scribe has their own little nuance also. But that's our aleph. Something like that. It reminds me of an F in English. So we've got our aleph. So I'll write that over here on the right-hand side. Now a bet. Well, we saw a bet with shavarti. There's a bet. See if we can find another bet. I'll just scroll across and maybe you can see one. Here's a bet. Here's a bet. Again, this is just kind of learning to see those letters. So we'll write the bet now up here. Something like that. He might make it a little, sometimes it looks like it even might have a little hook at the end. Now the gimel is more rare, but we did find this guy right there. That's our gimel. So we'll just go with that. Gimel, and it's smaller, much smaller, relatively speaking. The aleph, bet, gimel, dalet. Dalet, let's see, where did we see a dalet? Oh, from oh no, that wasn't it. Well, now I'm not seeing one here. None are sticking out to me. Oh, here's one right here. There's a dalet. So the dalet it's much longer. See that? Yeah, the dalet is not sticking out to me as much, but that's there, and it's not the same as this one. This is a resh. So a resh might have a little knob there on the bottom. So the dalet seems to be much longer, like that. And he even has, the top goes a little bit past it like that. Aleph, bet, gimel, dalet. Hey, we saw a bunch of hays. Hey is this guy right here. And we've learned before that he makes it kind of like this. Because it's what it is. It's a quick, in other scripts, the hey looks like that. But what he's done, he's made it this shorthand by adding that little loop. So far, we've got our aleph, bet, gimel, dalet, hey, vav. We saw our first letter today was a vav. Maybe you remember that. It's like right here. And we'll see those again and again and again. And so the vav looks like this. Zion was a new letter that we saw today. And it is right, very erase that, right here. And we saw another one right here. It's almost, it reminds me of like two, I don't know how to describe it. Two canes or something, two candy canes with a little line between them. That's our Z. So we've got Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin. Then we want a Chet. And a Chet is that little, it's like a little box. See, he's not even consistent here. Like this one is more vertical, right? And then this one is more angled. So you can see how speed will affect his ability to write, you know, being consistent. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet. Tet is a neat one. It is usually pretty easy to see, but it is rare. It's like the other rare letters, but here's a Tet right here. It's like an X with a partial circle around it. And sometimes it touches that one corner. So there we go. There's our Tet. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod. Real easy in our Aramaic script. The Yod is, looks kind of like a Z with a line, or a Z. With a little dash. You can write a couple of them if you're practicing. There's our Zion, or sorry, our Yod. I was thinking Z, Zion. There's our Yod. Then we have, remember, no final forms. So when we go to our Kaf, you'd have to go Kaf like that. Oh, Helen, I see your question. Would they have to start the whole paper? No, a scribe would, they would usually, and we have other manuscripts from the Dead Sea Scrolls that have corrections. They would just like write the little letter above or something like that. Like in the case of a Nehushah, where they missed a letter. I'm just going to pause to, so they would put, oops, maybe go like this, so that you have the full Kanehusha, right? And they would try to squeeze it in. If it was a complete misspelling, they might cross it out and write the word again above it. Sorry, I missed your question, but that's a really great question. So, Kaf, remember, no Sophete letters here. And a Kaf we see here and here, and it kind of starts like that. Oops. Kind of starts like that, and then has this. So that's a Kaf, and that's going to be the same in the middle of a word or the end of a word. And then we have Kaf Lamed. A Lamed usually are real easy to see because it's like this right here. Here's another one. Here's another one. So what's hard to know, did he start down and go up, or did he go the opposite way? But I kind of go like that. I go from right to left and then back up to the right. Lamed Mem. Our Mem is this letter right here. That one's harder to see. Here's a better one. And it consists of a 1, 2, 3, and then the underside there. So we're just kind of mimicking this particular scribe. Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun. Letter Nun. Again, no final form, so you only have to learn one form for each letter. The Nun is like this right there. So this is Tav, Tav, Nun. Titen. It's kind of like a mem, but it has less of a squiggle up top. Then we have a samach. Now a samach uh, in modern block script is just a circle. And if, in a fancy text, it kind of has this fancy kind of hook to it with a little kind of tuft of hair. But what we have here, let's see if there's a samach, here's a samach, and this one actually on the lower left is actually a better example. You have a series of these, something like that, where you have 1, 2, 3 little hooks and then a vertical line. So that's our letter samach. So we'll come up here and draw that. And it's usually a little bit bigger than the other letters. Helen asks, when you find errors in the text, what does that mean in light of those who note that the Bible is full of errors? Oh, that's a really good question. That's probably a question for another day, but that's an excellent question. Short answer is God gave his word into the care of humans. The instant God revealed his word to Moshe and had Moshe, well, of course, with the 10 words, God himself wrote it. But the copying of the Torah and, of course, the prophets, they wrote in the Psalms, they were written traditions that were transmitted in the hands of men. Our next letter is ayin. And so because of that, it's in the transition of a transmission among men that we have to watch. We have to watch what men do, the kinds of errors that men make. And thankfully, we have a lot of manuscripts preserved that we can lay them all out and study them together. So we have ayin. The letter ayin, as we noticed, is this little guy. It's almost one of the smallest little letters. There's another one. Pretty easy to see because it's a tiny little circle. Looks something like that. Ayin's harder for me to make for some reason. Try one more. Something like that. Ayin. So we have Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samach, Ayin. Then we're going to have a Pei. That's kind of how I'd make a block Pei. And a Pei is going to look really close to a Nun, except here we have the word piryo, its fruit. It will not give its fruit. And so we have this here it looks like that kind of. It's this horizontal line, and then it finishes off very similar to the way the Nun does. So notice the Nun has this extra little bit. The Pei goes like that. So not a lot of difference between those two. The Tzadi, again, no Sofit letters. So the Pei, there's only one Pei and only one Tzadi. We had a Tzadi right up here for Artzachem, for your earth, your land. And so we have a line and then like a lightning bolt coming out of it. Maybe a little. That's a Tzadi. Then we have a Kuf. And a Kuf is also a letter that has a couple different ways of being written among the Dead Sea Scrolls, even in the Paleo Hebrew. Here's one right here. It kind of has this interesting little hook look to it. Quite different than the Kufs that we see later. like my block kuf below, something like that. Then we have a resh. We already saw resh in shavarti. We saw that in our very first word here, right there. Here, another one, right? So it looks a lot like a bet, but when we compare them next to each other, that's when it's real helpful. You can compare. So this is a bet, right? And then a resh. So there's our resh, sheen. If you remember our sheen, we had that right here. Sheen, that was one of our first words for shavarti. Our first letters, right here. So there's our sheen. And finally is our tav. And our tav, we've seen them, they're almost as easy to spot as the aleph. Next other. So there we go. So this is a neat manuscript for for a number of reasons. But one of the cool things that when we have extended portions of text preserved, we can kind of study how the particular scribe made all his letters. And this gives us a little bit of insight into the various scribal traditions. Because at Qumran, we have many different scribes that are copying, and not contemporaneously. Sometimes there's a scribe from, like the manuscript we're looking here is called 11Q1, and it dates to the 1st century BC. So this text, this was in the world before Yeshua was born. This was, we don't know if it was already written and stashed away or if it was in active use. We don't know much about that, but we can see that they took great care in, let me see if I can get back to that image here. There we go. We can see they took great care in writing this and planning it out. You can see that the lines of the manuscript are scored into the leather. So it was carefully preserved. It's not wanting to zoom in for some reason. I was trying to zoom that in. But perhaps I can't tell how it's coming across screen, but if it looks kind of like college ruled paper. Oh, there we go. It's going to let me in now. Nope. Huh. Yeah, not letting me. Oh, those lines are there. It was cleaned and prepared as a writing surface, and then scored with a sharp object and some straight. Careful. The right justification, you can see a vertical line was scored, and there's some sort of marker for the left justification as well. And when he gets to that place, it doesn't even matter if he's in the middle of a word, he will continue that. He'll just continue the next letter, the next line. And of course, this is learned. Just like think about how you learn to write and you practice writing. And you might recognize, people that in your family, you might recognize. Like, for example, if I see something written, I can tell if my mom wrote something, or if my dad wrote something, or my wife wrote something, because I know their handwriting. They're all using the same letters, the same language. They're not going to be any different here. However, when they're copying scripture, it's not like a grocery list. They're taking it very seriously. This is sacred text. They are not originating the ideas. They're not making up these words. Our presumption is that they're doing their best to create or scripts Leviticus, and they want it accuracy It isn't, as we can see, occasional, like an et missing or a shin missing. But that's, again, the value of having multiple manuscripts. And of course, the Masoret is an intensified scribal school that emerges in the years of the Second Temple period, all the way up through the Middle Ages. We have the real concentration of scribal knowledge pertaining to the Tanakh. And by the time we get to the post-Islam, after Islam kind of spreads, by the time we get to the 900s and the 1000s, we have the kind of the complete, from Qumran, 1st century BC. And, I just went black, but that's okay. To look at the letters of the alphabet in addition to just a couple of passages of the scripture. So until next week, Lord willing, we will begin Bamidbar, the book of Numbers. Shalom, everybody.